for joining us. On behalf of Mayor Mamdani, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the Board of Directors, the Mayor's Fund to Advance New York City. I'm going to call us officially to order. Yes. So to start, let's please just do a quick round of introductions. So if you can, we'll keep it short because we have longer introductions in the binder and we'll all be getting to know each other over some time, but name, a professional affiliation if you have one, and your neighborhood. So I'm Elle Biscard Church, I'm Chief of Staff to the Mayor, and Greenpoint, Brooklyn.
Hi, I'm Claudia Saracita. I'm Deputy Chief of Staff to the Mayor and Upper East Side.
Kate Smith, I'm the Executive Director of the Mayor's Fund and Brooklyn Heights Red Hook.
Hi everyone, Emmy Liss. I'm the Executive Director of the Mayor's Office of Child Care and Early Childhood Education, the full Prospect Heights, Brooklyn.
Ricky Mananzala, President of the New York Foundation, and now we're neighbors. I'm in Prospect Heights.
Okay, all right.
Now we.
Hi, I'm Julie. I'm the Institutional Giving Manager at CAV, and I live in Park Slope.
Hi, everybody. Christina Cover. I'm a 9th grade ELA teacher and literacy coordinator in the Bronx, and I live in Mott Haven in the Bronx as well.
All right. Tony Pearlstein. I'm with the United Auto Workers Union in the organizing department, and I live in Park Slope.
Maya Honda, Mayor's World Cup czar, and I live in Bed-Stuy. Sean Moorhead, New York Community Trust, and I also live at Park Slope.
The Moff.
Bring it home.
Javier Valdez, he, him, él. I direct the Civic Engagement and Government team at the Ford Foundation, and I live in Kensington.
Thank you all very much. Nice to be with you. So today we are going to introduce the work of the Mayor's Fund and the initial planning underway by this administration, including with 2 representatives leading that work. And I'm just going to say a few words at the top here on overall vision before passing along to Kate. As we embark on this new era, we have the opportunity to create a new strategy for progressive philanthropy, working together to determine how we can infuse new resources into fulfilling the goals of the Mamdani administration. It's no mystery that our administration recognizes our country's deep wealth inequities, and we know too that the philanthropic community is committed to a more just world. The Mayor's Fund creates a space for us to grapple with these questions and, importantly, to find solutions. We can create generous partnerships to infuse new monies into the public sector, public-private partnerships, pilot programs, and new initiatives. All can help better equip the city to meet New Yorkers' needs. This administration wants the philanthropic community to help shape an optimistic and a bold vision for a great, flourishing city. There are many intelligent, sincere, and energetic people who are ready to take up that call with us, including you all in this room. And it will be the goal of the Mayor's Fund to match our human resources with the financial backing that can innovate and deliver. I'm proud that our new board of directors will reflect this administration's commitments. We will now have a board made up of New Yorkers from different walks of life, activists and workers and union members and philanthropic leaders. Thank you all for your willingness to serve. And with that, I will turn it over to Kate.
I'm now going to move on to some new business. First off, I want to ask for a motion to the board to approve Elle Biscard Church as the chair of the board. Does somebody move to approve Elle as chair?
Thomas.
Okay, somebody second?
Second.
All in favor of the approval of Elle Biscard Church as board chair, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Say nay. Okay, the motion is passed. So next on the agenda, I just want to give a brief overview of the Mayor's Fund. I know a lot of you are very familiar with it, but I want to say we're truly grateful for the opportunity to work alongside all of you. I'm pleased to share that just in the first 2 months of this administration, we've raised over $4 million, and a lot of that is thanks to the support of a lot of you in this room. And going forward, we look forward to that support and partnership as well. Over the coming weeks, I'm also going to reach out to everybody to set up calls to do some onboarding or answer any questions or anything you need about the board. And anytime, just reach out to me as well. I look forward to connecting with you and continuing this important work together. So I just have a couple slides sort of just about what we are, and this might be repetitive, but we're the city's fundraising arm. The Mayor's Fund is a 501c3 nonprofit that serves as a primary gateway for private-public partnerships and innovation. We foster public-private partnerships that support city, the mayor's offices, and the agencies. We're led by an executive director and a mayor-appointed board of directors, all of you. And we have active partnerships with more than 50 city agencies and 100 of community-based organizations. And why the critical advantages of the Mayor's Fund is we can bypass lengthy municipal procurement. We can act as a lab to pilot new programs before they become tax levy items. We can test bold or experimental policies with private money to ensure proof of concept before investing in public funds. We match private donations with public goals to increase impact. We provide a seat at the table for foundations and corporate leaders to partner on pressing issues. And city agencies benefit from private funding because it provides them with resources they otherwise might not have. And finally, this is just some of the stuff that's your role now as board of directors. You are legally responsible for the Mayor's Fund now as a nonprofit. You ensure all funds are spent according to donor intent and city law. We will have an audit and finance committee review, and you will approve the audit and approve the budget. There are four meetings that we require per year, but we plan to have additional meetings as well. You approve the appointment of the executive director, and you authorize major partnership agreements with city agencies. You ensure that the fund's work remains aligned with the mayor's policies, goals, and major initiatives. And we hope you will advise on fundraising strategy. And this year we plan to work on a long-term strategic plan that we would love to have all of your input in as well. So for now, I will pass it back to Elle, but that's just an overview. And I look forward to talking to each of you in the next couple weeks. Thank you.
So we thought we could best use this time to hear about some of the burgeoning priorities of the administration and also take stock of where Phil is already investing. And so with that, Emmy, let me turn it over to you, please.
Thank you so much. It's been great to be with all of you this evening. And I know many of you have been involved very, very directly in our conversations to date around childcare and already have stepped up to support this work. So excited to be with those of you who are very intimately familiar and to bring folks into this conversation. So just starting from, as we talk about childcare and what we are doing, always want to ground us in what are we doing and why universal childcare. I don't think I have to sell really anyone here, especially looking at some familiar friends and faces about why universal childcare. But just to start there always, I think we are really anchored on childcare as a core pillar of the affordability agenda, because we know what this could mean for New York City's economy, for families, for children, really at all levels. Kids who have access to high quality early care and education have stronger developmental outcomes. Families who have access to accessible, affordable childcare are more likely to participate in the workforce, are more able to save, are more able to plan for their future in the city. And we also know the sort of counterfactual to that families with children under 6 right now are twice as likely to leave the city, often citing childcare as a major cost. And we also know that investments in childcare have a tremendous return on investment for our economy at large. It allows businesses to retain a high quality workforce, and it puts money back into our local economy. And we've seen from examples all over the world and country that investments in childcare have a 10 or 13 to 1 return on investment. So what are we doing as a city as we really build towards this vision of universal childcare? So we are starting from a strong foundation, and as many of you know, I was part of the effort in the de Blasio administration to expand 3K and pre-K to reach all 3 and 4-year-olds in the city. And so we have an existing program base to build from. We serve today about 100,000 3 and 4-year-olds, and as well as targeted programming to support thousands of low-income children through a mix of city and state investments. Earlier this year, feels like a very long time ago, but really just a little over 2 months ago, as we were early into the administration, the mayor and governor stood together to announce over $1.2 billion in new state funding, which will allow us to both stabilize our existing childcare system and make sure that we are truly meeting the needs of all families with our 3K and pre-K programs. And this is allowing us, most exciting, to launch 2K this fall. So we are planning to serve about 2,000 2-year-olds this fall in 4 areas of the city, expanding to 12,000 2-year-olds in fall of 2027, and every 2-year-old citywide by the end of the first term. And this all ladders up to our ultimate vision, which is that every child under 5 in the city should have access to free, high-quality early care and education, provided in a range of different care settings based on the cultural, linguistic, logistical preferences of families, and that care should be provided by educators and caregivers who are truly respected, properly compensated, and trained to do that work. So how do we get there? I think we like to say that it will take all of government to get to universal childcare, which is really where the office that I lead comes in. So the Mayor's Office of Childcare and Early Childhood Education, we sit here in City Hall as part of the First Deputy Mayor's team and really serve as I think of us as kind of the connective glue between all of the different agencies whose work touches childcare. We are really driving the overall strategy, coordinating the policy and programmatic activity across agencies to make our system work better for families and providers, whether that's bringing agencies together to think about how we build the workforce of the future, how we make the childcare permitting process easier for providers, how we make it faster for families to find the care they need. We are doing right now a lot of community engagement, which is core to how we want to continue thinking about this work to make sure that parents and childcare providers are an essential voice in our policy making. And lastly, and obviously a big piece of why I'm here today, is that our team recognizes that at an incredible moment like this, there is so much energy in the city beyond the walls of city government, from philanthropy, from business, from the nonprofit sector to help us advance this vision. And we are really excited to harness all of that energy to accelerate our path towards universal childcare. So with that, we are planning to launch the Childcare Action Fund, which will be a dedicated fund within the Mayor's Fund that will allow us to bring in support for childcare work and deploy those resources against a core set of priorities. And we are initially planning to focus in 5 big areas. The first around family outreach and engagement. And on that one, I just recognize the folks here who are part of the New York City Forward Fund who are already supporting that body of work. We know that if families, it's wonderful if we build childcare, but families have to actually know about it and use it for it to be meaningful. So we are planning to invest in some on-the-ground research to understand what families want and need and value, to make sure that in our programming and in our messaging and our work to bring families in, we reflect what they want and need. And then we know in order to actually engage families in these programs, we have to be on the ground in community working with trusted partners. So we plan to use these resources to do some creative market research with families, to fund direct outreach, to fund trusted community organizations who can help us reach families who may not always go to government as their point of information. The second priority is direct support for providers. We're really interested, especially for our family child care providers who are single business owner operators. They are primarily women of color working and serving their communities, running childcare programs out of their homes, and they are everything. They are the educator, they are the business owner, they are the cook, and they are cleaning. And we know there's a lot of direct support that we can use some resources to provide. So we are looking at things like business coaching, licensing support to help providers who are running informal programs and want to formalize their work. There are phenomenal nonprofit organizations that run these sorts of cohort models for providers, and we're interested in how we can scale programs, adapt them specifically for the context we're in right now, and as well as thinking about kind of the emergency resource support that providers often need and don't have a place to turn to. Some sort of catastrophic maintenance issue in their apartment could shut their entire business down because providers rarely have a reserve of capital. So we're interested in looking in things like that as well. Workforce development. We know that in order to meet our goals of universal childcare, we have to dramatically expand the number of people who are in the childcare workforce. There are real issues of wage and benefit equity that we as a city have to work to address. And alongside that, we're interested in leveraging philanthropic dollars to creatively build the pipeline. How do we recruit more people to come into the field, people who may not have thought about this before, whether that's high school apprenticeship programs or pathways for people who are mid-career and want to make a big change. We also plan to work with our partners in higher education to think differently about training and certification programs, particularly for people who are already in the field but want to further their professional skills, which then allows them to earn higher wages as well. We also need a lot more physical space for childcare in the city in order to meet our universal goals. And here as well, there's a number of creative ideas. We're excited to leverage philanthropic capital to support looking at how we can support public housing residents who want to open their own home-based childcare programs. There are many, and we have a few proven models to help them grow and scale their businesses, and we're looking at those. We're also thinking about how can we use both public and private space differently. All across the city, we have the ground floor of affordable housing developments often sit empty because there may not, the sort of market economics of childcare make it, and that business broadly, but make it such that childcare providers aren't going out and renting those spaces. We're looking at a couple of models with our city agency partners and with nonprofits who are skilled in providing facility support to childcare providers to think about how we can repurpose those spaces and provide support and technical assistance to providers to do that. And then lastly, thinking about research and innovation. And we know that the world is watching, the country is watching, people are reaching out and reminding us of that all the time, and that what we do here in New York City has the potential to impact policy nationally. And so we want to make sure that we are being thoughtful about evaluation and documenting the impact of our work as we go. We also want to make sure we're leveraging research partners to inform our own implementation and continue improving it and make sure we are reaching the families we really want to reach. So all that, I'm almost done. So we are, our goal is to raise $20 million for the Child Care Action Fund, which is a big, audacious goal, but we have been hearing from funders since the administration started, and we're really excited about the potential to bring folks in. We have some gifts in hand already, even before we've formally announced this, the Child Care Action Fund, including the gift I referenced before from the New York City Forward Fund, as well as a gift from the Margaret Casey Foundation, which is unrestricted, and we plan to align to these 5 priorities. In general, I think we are thinking about partnerships with philanthropy, both folks who may come to us and say, we're excited about what you're doing in childcare. You tell us how you want to use this, and these 5 priorities will allow us to communicate how we plan to use the money. We also know there are folks who are deeply invested in one or more of these areas and may come with a really specific idea that they're excited about, and we want to be open to both. We also know there are many philanthropic organizations here in the city who have long been investing in the childcare space, plan to continue doing so. They don't have to put their money through this fund in order for us to work for them. We know that there are ways we can coordinate with and align our priorities with other funders. For example, next week we are going to announce, along with Robin Hood, a big first of its kind, first of its scale survey that Robin Hood is funding to hundreds of thousands of New York City parents so that we can, for the first time ever, actually understand parents' true childcare needs and preferences. And so Robin Hood is funding that initiative directly, but we've been a close partner at the table, and we anticipate working with other funders in that same capacity. So with that, just a couple of next steps. On our side is we are working towards a public announcement of the Action Fund in April, and keep everyone posted about that. And following that, we intend to do a formal series of funder briefings as well as individual donor conversations, though those have been ongoing really since the start of the year. And then we are in the work already. So we have right now an RFP that is live for folks to support the family focus groups and messaging work that's funded by the New York City Forward Fund gift. We are planning in the coming weeks to months to also release some additional RFPs specifically for the direct support to providers work. We are sitting with family child care leaders and advocates to get their input about what would be most meaningful, and plan to reflect that in where we fund this. And then we are in active conversation with a couple of nonprofit partners and investors who are really focused on the physical space side of this, especially around the idea I briefly mentioned about commercial space and for housing developments. So that was a lot.
A lot.
Okay.
Are there any questions for A? You can take a few. I think.
So is 20 million your total ask into the fund, or total across into the fund and aligned funding?
I think aligned and into the fund. If we can get to 20 into the fund, that would be phenomenal. But I think we're still assessing through conversations with folks sort of what their preferences, frankly, as funders are as to how they want to work. And I think we want to do a mix of whatever is going to lead to the highest impact.
Yeah. I actually think you could push a little higher if you want to include aligned gifts. My sense is for this, I'd go big.
And that's for the first year, so into the 4-year. So ultimately probably a lot more than 20. So this
Yes, this is the first year.
And I think you've done just a superb job of outlining what the 5 areas are. Makes it so much easier for funders to think about how to contribute and in what way. So I think given the specificity of the ask, I would push hard.
Okay.
Is there any potential prospects that you might want to announce in April, or are you using April as a way to? I know Margaret Casey will be one, but like, is there others that you are talking to that hopefully the April day might be a moment for them to be made public?
I think now that once we have a date, there's a couple folks I'm going to go back to say, okay, we're announcing this. Do you want in before or after we announce? I think there are some of the folks we've been talking to are also, frankly, just waiting to have really concrete proposals back from us in hand of how we use the funds. So we're working to get some of those out to people. I think there's 1 or 2 that we might be able to formalize by the time we announce.
Because I feel like, right, the first 3 weeks since the announcement is going to be your big rush to build momentum. It's like I think having some people ready to say, I'm ready to get backs.
Yeah.
You know?
Any individuals on the like big pocket individuals on the pipeline?
So we've had conversations with folks who have both a sort of individual side and a personal side. We've had quite a number of conversations with Heising Simons, both like from the personal and the foundation side, and they're ready to frankly write a very large check at some point. But I think they were leaning more towards the sort of post announcement. Once this is out there, then they want to come in. But I'm going to go back and just check in before we officially announce it. I have otherwise mostly talked with more sort of institutional philanthropy, and happy to share. We could share a list of some of the folks we've been talking to. I know that sort of before, sort of during the transition, before we had taken office, and then even a bit early in the year, there were some conversations through Democracy Alliance with, and I know there are a number of individual donors who are part of that group, and I think we may be able to go back at some point to some of those folks as well. A lot of the folks in that group were more interested in some of the advocacy work that we cannot do directly, which I know you all are helping to harness some of that interest, because I think a lot of those individuals were interested in helping to make sure we secure the long-term public investment, which we support. We just cannot do that ourselves.
With some of the physical capacity building piece, Claudia and Elle know this, but some of the impact investors we've been working with as well who are interested in specifically in that piece. So I think there's a ton of opportunity there. I don't know if you would count it towards this fund's goal, because I don't think this would be routed through the fund. It would be more unique financing tools and CDFIs, but I think there's a ton of interest. They have the memo that explains some of what those opportunities are. If you haven't seen that yet, I think there's got to be some way to attach that to the fund, because those are the folks like Pivotal and others that are just ready to be in the space. They've been in this space in other cities that are experimenting in similar ways around rehabbing physical spaces and financing that with an impact investing lens.
Wonderful. I think one hope was that this would start the juices flowing, and it clearly already is, and there will be a lot more to come. Thank you, Emmy. Okay. We're also excited to hear about another distinct priority area for building with the philanthropic community, and so I will hand it to our World Cup star, Maya.
Hey everybody. I mean, that was awesome. Very excited. We are switching gears. We're switching gears. But I do want to say, I think this is a particularly exciting priority. I think the mayor often talks about bread and roses, and beyond the economic development potential of the World Cup, which we'll discuss. I do think this is an opportunity to celebrate the city and kind of show what, you know, ambitious governance and the best city in the world can look like when we're using every tool at our disposal to celebrate. So with that, just want to give a brief overview for those who are not extremely diehard soccer fans who have been waiting for this moment for the last 4 years, but nobody in this room, of course. So there's going to be 8 matches at MetLife in New Jersey, including the final. And there's basically host cities across the country, 11 host cities. We are very lucky to have, I believe, the most matches and also the final. And of course, it does happen in New Jersey. So we're working closely with the state of New Jersey, the state of New York, and FIFA's host committee to put together our plans. There will be official fan fests from FIFA in every borough, so that's going to kind of be the traditional like activations, watch parties. But the mayor also has a deep interest in making sure that everyone, the millions and millions of people here who cannot perhaps necessarily afford a ticket to the game, can celebrate. And so we have been charged with thinking ambitiously, thinking about what the best of municipal governments and streetscape can offer. And I'm really, really excited about what we have in the works. I'll touch on some of that briefly, but just know there's also more to come there, which is really thrilling, and I think is going to be a clear sign of kind of the administration's commitment to acting ambitiously and creatively in this space. And just wanted to point out there will likely be between 1 and 1.2 million visitors to the region for the World Cup. The host committee estimates a $3.3 billion economic impact and likely around over 26,000 jobs created and supported between construction, hospitality, retail, and so forth. So, you know, we are investing in the World Cup, and we believe the return on investment is significant. And we also believe that a well-run, joyful, ambitious, and exciting World Cup is just the beginning of being able to bring other events to the city to benefit our small businesses, our tourism industry, our economy. For example, the Olympics will be coming in 28, and then we are putting in a bid for the Women's World Cup in 2031. So I think this is also kind of like a testing ground to show what the best city in the world can do for an event like this. Awesome. So just to walk through the mayor's kind of goals and priorities generally, obviously affordability is really top of mind. And as I mentioned, you know, the World Cup is expensive, but there's millions of soccer fans in the city. So our priority is going to be really affordable, ideally free World Cup watch parties and celebrations across the 5 boroughs. We have been working extremely hard to make sure that this is a safe and non-disruptive event between transit to New Jersey and coordination with NYPD and, you know, global unrest. It's like more important than ever that New Yorkers feel like their lives are not disrupted and that they can celebrate peacefully and safely. The mayor just wants to show off how much he loves this city and how much we all love this city. And I think that is at times an underrated piece of events like these. We are just such a center for arts and culture and food, and our immigrant communities are so incredible. And this is a moment where we can put that on the world stage. Obviously, it is of great importance that this be an economic engine. And so we're working really closely with New York City Tourism and others to ensure that tourists are pushed to outer boroughs, and that we are also working with NYC EDC to use this moment to kind of capture larger companies that might be thinking about making New York City a headquarters, so that it's small businesses, it's large businesses, and it's both short and long-term economic impact. And of course, we want to be really ambitious and reflective of the admin's values. You know, what kind of World Cup could only this administration plan? And we are very excited about some of the work going into that. So I'm going to talk about a couple of priorities that in particular we would love to partner with philanthropy on, but I will just flag that there's really more to come, and we have kind of secured some funding in various forms for other projects. So excited about that as well. So the first piece is soccer streets. So many of you may know that, and this comes from the mayor's kind of push to think really ambitiously about placemaking and our streetscape and how we can show like what an incredible city this can be for everyone. And so many of you are aware of school streets, which is sort of the mechanism through which streets near public schools can be shut down during pickup and drop off and at other times. And so the idea here is going to be a DOT partnership with Street Lab, where we basically work with public schools to use school streets creatively. So traditionally they're used for pickup, drop off, maybe a block party, but this is going to be, the idea is going to be that basically between the end of spring break and the end of school, which ends basically like partway through the World Cup, we are going to work with 50 public schools to do individual block parties around the World Cup during their school streets timing. So you can see there, I think some of the like current Open Streets partners that are kind of like the schools that we're already working with. We're already, I think we have secured kind of 40 schools that are interested. But the idea here is the creativity of like how we can use and change the streetscape. So we're very, very excited about the potential here. And Street Lab is working on sort of these reusable kits that can very quickly pop up a block party that involves like really cool kind of youth activations, getting young people excited, getting them moving. And we're going to partner with FIFA and the local soccer clubs to do kind of have legends of the game come and do some kind of trainings and things like that. I'm excited about this little design because the way they did it, it uses the barriers that are traditionally used to kind of close down these streets. And I think there's a lot of very exciting possibilities for the creativity around like how we can use our built environment to then provide opportunities for play. There's also branding opportunities around it. So in the event that there's like particular partnerships that folks are interested in, there's going to be like branding, promotion, collaborations with legends of the game. I think we're all very excited about the creativity here. And then these kits can be reused both throughout the World Cup in Open Streets, but also into the future. And our hope is that this is a pilot of the kind of way that we want to be. And then we can grow our program from there. So that's the first piece. The second piece that we're also very excited about is our mural project. So the idea here is that obviously New York is just a center for arts and culture. We have some of the most talented people in the world. And we really believe that our city government should be celebrating that, supporting that, investing in that, right? And this is an incredible opportunity with 1.2 million visitors to ensure that people understand that. And so we're working with the Parks Department. They've given us already 3 locations per borough, but working on more. And our hope is to work with up-and-coming young artists, particularly from diverse communities, to basically create these enormous murals celebrating the neighborhoods and communities that these are going to be located in, but also the beautiful game, legends of the game. I think people are going to get really creative with this, and really, really excited for folks to just come to the city and see what we are all about. And there's going to be a bunch of opportunities for collaborations with young people in creating these murals. They're going to be in some great locations on Parks Department property. I won't get into all the details, but I think this is, a multi-layered investment, not just in public art and in our young artists, but also in kind of communities getting to decorate and show the beauty of the place that they live. And then the final piece I'm extremely excited about, as is, I think, our mayor. So there's a couple of driving factors behind this. So the first thing I'll say is, I won't get too deep into it, but we're working with New York City Tourism on a sort of activation with small businesses, particularly restaurants and bars, to be able to offer deals during the World Cup and basically promote that to tourists. So we're going to do something pretty ambitious around making sure that our restaurants and bars, particularly in outer boroughs, are being uplifted. And in particular, I think, restaurants that are run by, our immigrant neighbors feel really important to this, both because, that's going to be the site of a lot of World Cup watch parties, but also because this is a moment in our country when we should be celebrating our immigrant neighbors in particular and lifting them up. And so we are going to be kind of working on this very comprehensive plan and hope to kind of finalize it with a capstone, which would be like a World Cup of Food global expo. We're talking to Queen's Night Market. We're talking to a few different kind of fairs that occur, but the idea is to have vendors from basically every country playing in the World Cup, of which there are 48, and to really celebrate them. And then again, this is a thing that the mayor wants to advertise. We want to push people to outer boroughs. We want to do like a passport to the city where folks are saying, I visited Little Pakistan, stamp, whatever. And so I think there's like a lot of really big potential here to both like uplift our communities in a really important time, and also really aggressively support our small businesses and show the potential for our city of these major events when tourists come to town, and not just send them to Rockefeller Center and the Empire State Building, but really to show them, you know, what our city is, and the way in which we all love it, which is, you know, at times in the outer boroughs and not just in Manhattan. So very, very excited for this. And I think the potential is really high to be just like a celebration and ambassador for the city. So these are three, I believe, of the main kind of opportunities that we're hoping to partner with philanthropy on. Again, some branding opportunities here, opportunities for in-kind. Really, really want to make sure that we can use these activations as a reflection of the mayor's values, the administration's values, and kind of show the best of how we can creatively govern during the World Cup. So thank you.
Thank you, Maya. Are there any questions for Maya?
It's super exciting. I think you're already working with Betsy McLean and that team
Yes.
of people.
Yes. Wonder.
Yeah, Team Wow, I think, or
Yeah.
Team Wonder.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I guess one of the questions I have for these particular projects, if people want to invest, it will be through the mayor's fund. Okay.
Are there any nonprofits though that you have engaged, for example, in the mural project or the soccer streets who are helping? Or are those for-profits that are?
In terms of funding,
Mm-hmm.
we are talking with a few corporate we've like been in conversation with some corporate partners, just because we think these are sort of win-win opportunities, but very open to, you know, partnership with all kinds.
Well, I meant, are you using nonprofits to actually do the work?
to do
like
it,
to do the murals or set up the?
So for soccer streets, it'll be with Street Lab, which is
Okay.
already a DOT partner, and they've been great, and you know, are super, like, they're off and running already.
Okay.
For the mural project, we are working with the Parks Department to identify locations, and I think there's a lot of different opportunities for how to identify artists and also how to get the murals up, and we're very open and kind of information gathering still, but really want to maximize like creative participation, engagement with youth, and so on. So very open to conversation there.
Great.
There's some funders that we should connect, and I can give you some access to that might be interested in this.
Yeah, it seems to me arts and culture funders would be a great place to go for some of this.
We're starting Stuck to Melon as one that for the murals, but any other ideas?
Yeah. And then I'm gonna ask if you've talked to the street vendor project too about particularly the food piece.
We are in conversation with them. This is still in the works, and so we don't want to like spin anybody up, but absolutely, that's the intention. Yeah.
In part because the power charging that they use for a lot of the trucks have environmental consequences, so it might be an opportunity to think about that too.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay. As we said, hoping to get juices flowing, so we will have more conversations to come. But thank you, Maya. Thank you, Annie. I think there were two main priorities in showing these two different presentations. Obviously, these are clear, defined, immediate priorities of this administration and where we're hoping for philanthropic partnership. And secondly, they also demonstrate exactly how we are trying to bring some new coherence to City Hall priorities. And so the styles of both of these presentations show that we want to be able to very clearly come to many of our partners across the city, some of which you're starting to name, and we'll think on more and say the Mamdani administration is really hoping for partnerships, support, investment in the following. And so I have to shout out Claudia and the team who has been doing a lot of work also with us to talk to all the different deputy mayors and the priorities in their shops to say, if we need to get laser focused, tell me what are the first things right now in this beginning of our term that you would want support of. So we're very excited to be ginning those up and then to bring them to this board with, I think, a clear mandate to start working and thinking and collaborating on how we start to fulfill those. So we're very excited for these and the wonderful work that's already happening. And I think would ask if there are any other general questions before I hand it back to Kate.
So first off, we have to keep the books, but please take everything inside, which we did make copies of the PowerPoints. So you can have those and all of your bios, but we'll be reusing these. So now I have to officially move to adjourn the meeting. Does somebody move to adjourn the meeting? And second. And so, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Thank you all for the first meeting, the first board meeting. Exciting.